People are surprised to hear that I'm an English major who didn't used to enjoy reading poetry very much. It's not that I didn't like it, it just wasn't something that I'd pick up and read for fun. Most students are the same way. They'll only read poetry if they have to for class. As someone who used to be one of these students, I actually came across some poems that I really enjoy reading, and now I own several books of poetry. During this presentation, I will read 3 of my favorite poems and discuss their valuable elements. The first poem that I will read is called Barbie Doll by Marge Piercy. This girl child was born as usual and presented dolls that did pee-pee and miniature GE stoves and irons and wee lipsticks the color of cherry candy. Then, in the magic of puberty, a classmate said, "You have a great big nose and fat legs." She was healthy, tested intelligent, possessed strong arms and back, abundant sexual drive and manual dexterity. She went to and fro apologizing. Everyone saw a fat nose on thick legs. She was advised to play coy, exhorted to come on hearty, exercise, diet, smile, and wheedle. Her good nature wore out like a fan belt, so she cut off her nose and her legs and offered them up. In the casket displayed on satin she lay, with the undertaker's cosmetics painted on. A turned-up putty nose, dressed in a pink and white nightie. "Doesn't she look pretty?" everyone said. Consummation at last. To every woman, a happy ending. This is an example of a poem that makes a statement. Piercy is condemning gender and beauty standards, and she does so through the use of the speaker's struggle. This begins with the classmate who bullies her in her youth. Although the speaker is intelligent, this doesn't matter because her worth is measured by her beauty or lack thereof. This message really comes through in the ending, where despite the tragic fate of the speaker, everyone at her funeral is still focused on her appearance. And the last lines really sell it. Consummation at last. To every woman, a happy ending. The sarcasm in these 2 lines really makes the message very powerful. The second poem that I will read is called Refugee Ship by Lorna D. Cervantes. Like wet cornstarch I slide past my grandmother's eyes. Bible at her side, she removes her glasses. The pudding thickens. Mama raised me without language. I'm orphaned from my Spanish name. The words are foreign, stumbling on my tongue. I see in the mirror my reflection. Bronze skin, black hair. I feel I am a captive aboard the refugee ship. The ship that will never the ship that will never dock. El barco que nunca atraca. This exemplifies communicating emotion and building empathy through poetry. It tells the story of a young child who is estranged between 2 cultures because she is a descendant of immigrants. This situation is unfamiliar to most people, but the audiences can understand the pain of the speaker and it builds their empathy. Cervantes uses several word choices that emphasizes this building of empathy, such as orphan, stumbling, and captive. These words especially emphasize the emotional distress that the speaker is experiencing, and it allows the audience to empathize with her. The final poem that I will read is called My Papa's Waltz by Theodore Roethke. The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy, but I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy. We romped until the pan slid from the kitchen shelf. My mother's countenance could not unfrown itself. The hand that held my wrist was battered on one knuckle. At every step you missed, my right ear scraped a buckle. You beat time on my head with a palm caked hard by dirt, then waltzed me off the bed, still clinging to your shirt. You may notice when reading this poem that there is kind of a ring to it, which comes from the iambic pentameter style, which is a rhythmic structure that Shakespeare used in his poetry, and it's very soothing to the ear and allows the poem to flow nicely. But my favorite aspect of this poem is that you can get very different interpretations from it. For example, the first several times I read this poem, I got a sense of drunken abuse. I saw that the narrator, the speaker, was a young child whose father would drink and then beat him. The words that brought me to this interpretation were hand, buckle, and beat. Alternatively, at a class at Mount Union, one of my professors had us read this poem, and he just thought that it was a boy who was having fun with his tipsy dad. He was taking the sense of waltzing very literally and thought the boy was enjoying himself. And these different opinions that my professor and I both have is one of my favorite parts of poetry, is that everyone who's reading a poem brings something different to the table, and everyone can come together and share their different interpretations. So, in summary, poetry is valuable because it makes a powerful statement, builds empathy in readers, and it allows people of all different backgrounds to come together and share their interpretations. So my challenge to you is, try picking up a book of poetry and see what you can gain from it.